Chantal, I'm super excited to have you on this platform today. I know we've known each other for many, many years.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I'm so excited is because you really are a success story for me in terms of someone who went in one direction and then completely changed direction in your career. And you've managed that so successfully. And so, as a talent engagement expert for out of box thinking and doing a lot of career coaching myself, I think it's such a helpful topic. And especially at this time where there's so many people who are either changing their careers because they have to or out of choice, just to see examples of other people who have done that and what's helped them to do it so successfully. So I'm really excited to welcome you here today. Would you like to introduce yourself before we jump in?
Thanks so much, Jane. Thank you for the opportunity. It's lovely to be on with everybody who's joined us on the call and also whoever might listen to the recording. And yeah, I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak to you, because even just having or thinking about the interview has helped me to reflect on my journey. And I've also realized, like, wow, okay, yes, actually I've gone through a lot, and it's been a great ride. So yeah, very happy to be here and to be able to share that story with you today.
No, that's great. Thanks, Chantal. And I think what I really also love about your journey is I feel like I've been part of it, because many years ago when we had Moores and Spam Recruitment Consulting, I interviewed you then.
Yes, that's right.
And sent you off for an interview at Shell. And there you really, I mean, it was one of those times where you came back from the interview and you said, Jane, the interview was really long and I don't know what that means. And I thought, that means it's really good, because they wouldn't spend such a long time with someone they weren't impressed with. And from the time that you joined Shell, I think you've just continued to grow and continued to develop until, as senior finance manager, you decided to leave at some point, and we'll get you to talk about that a little bit more now, 5 years ago. So yeah, that's really the journey that we're exploring. And now I'm interviewing you again, but on a different platform and virtually, not in person.
Yeah, times have definitely changed. And I also, it's great memories going back to that. Yeah, for me, I definitely feel like I grew up corporately at Shell.
Yeah, no, I think you did a fantastic job there. So Chantal, thinking of 5 years ago, and you'd been in corporate up until then, and you are still a CA, but your career had been focused on finance. Can you start off by telling us what motivated this change?
Yeah, you know what? I think there's always external and internal motivators, that play into a decision like this. And certainly, sure, the external things were right there in my face. Shell had decided to close the Cape Town offices and to move the teams that were in Cape Town up to Johannesburg to support our sales staff that were already based there. And so, yeah, at that point, I then had an opportunity. Did I want to actually go up to Johannesburg, relocate our family, etc.? Or was this actually, a chance for me to try to do something different? And so I think, yeah, this really gave me the kick I think I needed. I had, for even 5 years prior to that, been thinking, I'd really love to do something in my own line, in my own business. I wasn't sure what that was exactly. But I was also very comfortable at Shell. People knew me. I enjoyed the work there. I enjoyed the people, the environment so much. So I was really very comfortable. And yeah, I think just those external factors gave me the kick that I needed to start thinking about, okay, what do I really want to do? And I think that leads on to, what was then also happening for me internally, which was, I think that I thought to myself, if I go into another finance role, I feel like it's probably going to be same, little bit different, perhaps just in a different environment or context. And I'm wondering, is that really what I want to do? I think also I started to notice that while I still enjoyed the work that I did on a day-to-day basis, what I was really thriving on and really, getting a lot of energy from was the people and culture aspect of being in a corporate organization like Shell. And so, you know, developing my own team, the individual team members' potential, I was loving that. And then also being involved in, for example, we had a finance culture change where we were trying to change a culture of silence within our finance community, just working with the team that you know was putting that together and trying to influence the community. Wow, I was getting a lot of energy from that.
So you're saying that you were in finance. So, sorry, I just want to interrupt because I want to clarify. So you're saying you were in finance and you were enjoying that, but you're kind of alluding to, well, I was comfortable, so I needed a kick. And you're also saying that I realized I was enjoying a lot of the people side. So is that what was motivating your decision to change? Is I realize there's something else I need, but I'm too comfortable to make that leap or make that change?
Yeah, I definitely was too comfortable. So yeah, the kick of that, you know, made me have to make a decision was for me useful, I must say.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said as well, though, I think I was realizing that there were other things within the organizational space and context that was giving me a lot of energy and that I was really enjoying. And so I think that's where I was like, okay, hang on, if I'm not going to go into another finance role, then what can I look for in this space?
So there were some indicators in your work telling you I'm actually enjoying other parts of it. And you're talking about the team, the leadership aspect.
Yeah.
So because I was thinking about, okay, you were in finance, why coaching of all choices to make if you're thinking about a complete career direction? But I am hearing the people side. So yeah, tell us more about that. What influenced the coaching choice?
I'd been introduced to coaching quite early on in one of the leadership development courses that I went on. I think it was as early as 2005. So we had a particular coaching module, and it really resonated with me at the time. And even coming back into the organization then, I remember having a chat with our HR director at the time and saying to her, you know, this is amazing. You know, they're talking to us about leading our teams, but with a coaching approach. And I really think that this would, you know, make a huge difference in the organization. So yeah, I think already there, I guess you can say there was a root that had been planted. And then as things would happen, you know, life happened, a change of roles, lots of different things going on. And I think while I definitely took with me some of the coaching aspects that I, you know, learned in that leadership course, it was something that wasn't necessarily fully formed, but definitely something that I carried with me from that time. And I think just as I was thinking about the decision and having conversations with people who knew me well, you know, this idea of coaching came up again, and I was like, oh yeah, hang on. Yeah, that was something that, yeah, I really resonated with and let me look into it a bit more. You know, and so that then led me to have a couple of conversations with some coaches who were already working in that space. That also, I decided, let me read a book on coaching, you know, let me get into it a bit more, investigate, research, etc. Yeah, and see whether this is definitely something that I would love to pursue.
So I'm just wondering if you hadn't kind of been, you know, you said got this kind of kick that you needed, if you hadn't been made uncomfortable by external circumstances, do you think you would have made the change, or do you think you can see yourself still continuing in where you were? I'm just wondering how strongly you needed that nudge, because I know there's people out there during this time who have been kind of forced out of their role, if you like, but some who are maybe still a little bit comfortable and wondering, should I make a change or not? So yeah, what do you think?
You know, it's a great question, and I think it will be different for different people. I think the kick was helpful, and yet at the same time, once I was on the path, I really felt like, wow, okay, I'm moving in the right direction. And there was just, a lot of things that just felt, yes, I'm going to go for this with
Yes.
everything that I've got,
Yeah.
and see what happens. I have nothing to lose, so let's just go with it and see what happens.
Yes, I definitely hear some courage in there, that kind of sense of, okay, let me just try it out. This is something new. Let me jump in. But you also mentioned you'd been having conversations with people and people who knew you well. You'd had that coaching influence from earlier on, and you'd like that. So tell us more about what else you did to actually make that change and firm that decision to make the change.
So I must say, something that was, I think, top of mind for me is, how am I going to actually make this transition?
Yeah.
How can I credibly show up as a coach and build a business around that? How do people who perhaps known me as a finance professional now going to view me in a completely different light, and in a sort of more as a developmental enabler rather than a finance professional or someone who can help them understand the story or the drivers behind the numbers, etc. And so I think it was really important for me to make that transition in a credible way. And so more other research that I did was I looked into, well, how do you become a coach? What sort of things are available to help me to do this? And 5 years ago, the coaching industry wasn't necessarily as how can I say it wasn't necessarily as formalized. There was an absolute smorgasbord of options in terms of coaching learning. So I could have done, for example, a very short online course, which maybe would have been an introduction to coaching, to something a little bit more structured, offered by a particular coaching school, for example, the South African Coaching Academy, or to something a little bit more academic and experiential, like were offered by the likes of Stellenbosch Business School or the Graduate School of Business from UTT. So there was a range of coaching options that I could look into. And again, I think through having conversations with people, also thinking to myself, what's important to me? I realized for me to make that transition credibly, for me to be able to call myself a coach and, do it in a way that was believable for me and for others, I was going to do the Masters in Management Coaching through the Stellenbosch Business School. I definitely believe that for me was a great choice. It really exposed me to a number of different schools of coaching. Also because it's Masters in Management Coaching, it had the various aspects of leadership included, which was what I was interested in. And even though, yes, there was the academic part as well, which took quite a bit for me to get back into. That really helped me as a great springboard to making the transition credibly, as I mentioned. So.
I think that's such an important point, Chantal, and I can completely relate. I think as well, when I went into coaching, I thought I want to be able to present myself credibly. And for me as well, that translates to an internationally recognized, accredited qualification. And as you say, there's so much out there. And for you, that was right. And for me, when I did that, that was right. But other people might have different backgrounds or experiences. So they might need something else to make a shift, and not necessarily a shift. Not everyone's transitioning into coaching. But it is important to find something that helps you feel confident going forwards. And sometimes it's a qualification, I think, or experience. And for some people, it's just a mindset, kind of getting over that imposter syndrome, if you like. How can I possibly, sell myself as something? Surely I can't be. But for you, what did you find most challenging about making the shift?
Yeah. You know what? I think a big part of it was figuring out this sort of new identity for myself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
figuring out who I was becoming, um, making that shift from finance professional to business coach and entrepreneur at that time, as I would have described it in 2016.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I was kind of like, how am I going to show up differently, but still be authentic? I still want to,
Yes.
to be myself.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of, yeah, and I worked through this quite a bit with the coaching that I received during that time, was what did I need to let go of and what was I going to bring along with me?
Mm.
Because I know at first I was like, listen, it's okay, now I'm making a change. Finance life, well, that's behind me, I'm not going to work in finance anymore, etc. So that I want to put behind me. But I think there did need to be a realization for me that, hang on, that is such a part of my journey. It's such a
Yeah.
part of what makes me the coach that I am. That I
Mm.
yes, I don't necessarily do the finance work anymore, but the experience, yes, all the learning, sure, yeah, the
Mm.
amazing things that I was exposed to,
Yes.
as I went up the leadership ladder in Shell, all of
Mm.
that is part of who I am as a coach and what I bring in the coaching partnerships that I have with my clients.
Mm.
And so I think that, working out my identity, I mean, it's still ongoing. It's
Mm.
still ongoing, definitely. But it was a big part of what I worked through with the coaches who
Yes.
coached me during that time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
think
really love
another,
what you're saying. Sorry. No, I just wanted to say thanks. I really love what you're saying because I think that's something I've heard in global conferences recently is people
mm,
saying, how do I build that new identity? And even what you're saying about you had such good leadership experience at Shell and such strong finance knowledge that the
mm,
temptation is to throw that all away and say, okay, I now have a completely new identity. But to see, hang on, I actually probably have more than I thought I had if I just
mm,
bring it into a new context. And I remember somebody, Bridget Randall, speaking at the recent L&D Cares conference. And she said a lot of
yeah,
transition is actually about just finding new jargon sometimes, or rebranding or repositioning what you have done,
mm,
because then you actually realize that you can be more equipped to make a change than you thought. So it's not like, as
yeah,
you say, it's not like all of that previous experience wasn't relevant. That experience really helps you in what you do as a coach. So I love what you're saying.
absolutely,
Sorry, you
absolutely.
said the second thing is, yeah?
Yeah, as we were also, going along, and I was now starting to having to coach others as part of the masters as well. Something that was quite a challenge for me was to start to charge for the coaching. I was like, oh
Mm,
my goodness, and I'm so new in this. I mean, how can I possibly charge, to be in this coaching partnership with somebody
yeah.
when I have so little experience? And so
Mm,
again, that was something that I really worked through with my coach at the time. Yeah, I think again, it went back to this thing of credibility, which was important for me. And so, navigating through, yeah, what that meant. And then I think also, as I worked through it, realizing, um, what is the impact of, not charging for coaching on the client? I can
yeah.
actually tell you that it does make a difference. When somebody's got some investment or some skin in the game, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
What is the impact of not charging on the coaching relationship? There was
Mm,
times when I felt like, oh, this person feels like I'm doing them or they're doing me a favor by allowing me to coach them, etc. And so all these nuances that come in that you can actually only learn by kind of trial and error and going through it.
mm,
And then lastly, also just considering what is the impact on the coaching industry, so the bigger coaching system, for me not to charge for coaching. Yeah, so I think also working through that. So not only just from what value do I bring to the coaching partnership, but really considering how it impacts the relationships,
Mm.
the individual, bigger coaching
Mm.
system as well.
Yeah, I think those are such good points, Chantal. And I know there are a couple of people here with us today from the recruitment industry. And I think that was also a strong debate over lockdown where people felt, okay, I need to pull back and, yes, there is a place for doing things free, in a volunteer capacity. But sometimes if people drop their fees too much, that does impact negatively on the whole industry. And so I think that's been a tension, especially over this time in every profession. And as you say, yeah, there is that confidence to be able to charge. It does impact on the relationship. And something I think I really like that you said as well is you said that you needed to remain authentic to who you are. So as you built this new identity, again, it's not just saying I'm not going to throw away my experience. It's also I'm not going to throw away my values and my ethics and my approach to work. And that's so important, I think, as I also work with people in building their brands and how they show up in person and virtually. It's so important for all of us to hold on to our values and hold on to being authentic, because otherwise you can't build trust and you can't build confidence and be confident. I think those were also such great points that you made.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it definitely impacts the relationship. Yeah.
And I'm interested to know, because I think often, when we make changes, change is uncomfortable, it's uncertain. We've all had a lot of uncertainty recently. And sometimes we can think, oh, this is going to be hard and challenging. And yes, it's hard. And yes, it's challenging. But what were the parts about it that you really enjoyed, that almost felt easy or natural? Is there anything about your change that felt that way?
I think, what was easy was enjoying the flexibility of not being, now, having to, work office hours necessarily. I think the flexibility of being able to be there for our two sons, to be able to fetch him from school every day and things like that. So I think also, yes, I've made a change, and that's also been then a change in my time, which I think was very good for our family as well. So that was great. I think what I loved as well was just I thrived on the learning and the personal development that I went through during that time. I just felt like my mind was being stretched. I felt like I had muscles in me that were being stretched that I didn't know were there. And while it's not easy sometimes to have to really hold the mirror up to yourself, or your coach holds the mirror up to you. But wow, I just love being stretched like that. And even today, as I continuously try to develop as a coach, the learning, the development, I love that part of things now.
Wonderful. I think during this time, a lot of the talk has also been about how quickly we've all realized we can learn things. That sometimes we thought, I need to go on this course, or, take this amount of time. And during COVID, I think all of us learned so much so quickly that it's almost become learning in the flow of work. So as you say, you're still learning. And I think all of us who are learning every day, that's definitely part of keeping everybody energized. So Chantal, how did you then go about kind of promoting or selling your business, if you like? You said that, you've got this new identity now, you're still holding on to what you have. What were those next steps?
Yes. So that was very interesting, because I mentioned that I had in my mind, I'd really love to have my own business one day, and do something on my own. And you don't actually necessarily realize, oh yes, guess what? So no, not only am I making a transition to becoming an executive coach, but I'm also actually an entrepreneur now. And what does that mean? As I mentioned at Shell, I was comfortable in the sense that people knew me, they knew my work, I hadn't had to necessarily sell myself or anything like that for a number of years. And so, wow, this was now something that I hadn't necessarily anticipated the full extent of what it would mean, yeah, to actually build your own business. And yeah, again, I think this is where relationships are so important, Jane. You know, I think just having the relationships to be able to firstly bounce things off with people. I spoke to a number of people. How did you do it? What was your experience? Yes. Thankfully, there is quite a lot of support for entrepreneur coaches as well. So making sure that I could be involved in those sort of things. But it's really the relationships that I've built over years, you know, from a work point of view or even from a personal point of view that have helped. And so what do I mean by that? Now you have to think to yourself, yeah, I've got to go out now and I actually I would love to, you know, go and get some clients. I would love to work with more people. In fact, I very quickly realized that perhaps I wouldn't be able to necessarily, you know, just do the coaching. And so there are other aspects that I would want to add to my business offering. And so again, the relationships there were important. Those relationships have enabled me to make collaborative partnerships with companies so that I'm actually able to co-facilitate on leadership courses. I also do some skills training for a company that's based up in Centurion. Yeah, the skills training is on crucial conversations, and conversations are something I'm very passionate about, very dear to my heart, because I believe, you know, that, I mean, yeah, everything relies on conversations. So, you know, it's allowed me, those collaborative partnerships have really allowed me to add to my business and also add to the value that I'm able to, you know, offer to the clients. And then even definitely also on the executive coaching side, you know, just tapping into those relationships. And so I'm very grateful for some of, you know, some very key people who, yeah, have helped me along the way, that, yeah, I've been able to connect with, and on the coaching side and on the facilitation and training side, you know, have allowed me to work with individuals and teams and leaders in companies like InGen, Cipla, Amazon Web Services, Sanlam. Yeah, it's been a lot about building relationships, and yeah, and connecting with people.
Yeah, we can't underestimate that power of relationships and networks. And I was showing some research to a group this week in one of our workshops, and it was from the Global Conference Board Suite, where they do these surveys every year about CEOs and what they're most concerned about. And it was interesting to see at the beginning of last year, they said the people who will thrive in the future with all of our disruptions, which were there, you know, COVID was just added in on top of that. But they said the people who can collaborate and the people who can reimagine their external and internal networks, those are going to be the people who thrive in the future of work. And even now with, you know, the focus areas around future skills like flexibility and being able to adapt, so many of those also require relationships, support, collaboration. So I love what you're saying, because it highlights where people have moved, which is kind of more away from competition and closer towards collaboration, believing that together, as we offer our specialist skills, we can add more value to our clients. And we can get the support that we need to be able to do the best job we can do for our clients. So, so important, as you say, to figure out what is the need out there, how do I add value, and let me work with others, collaborate, network, and give in those relationships just as much as we get. And I think, you know, that circle goes round and round.
Yeah.
I love it, Chantal.
What you've said also, I think, reminds me of, you know, another shift that I had to make around thinking about the business. And I used the words earlier, I hadn't sold myself, you know, I hadn't had to sell myself for a while, you know, before moving into this. And I actually realized that, yes, it isn't about selling myself, building the business. You know, it's about having those conversations, understanding, what's happening in the business? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges in the business? What are the challenges for you or for your team? You know, and is there some sort of value match between, you know, if we go into some sort of partnership together, whether it's coaching or whether it's working with the team, etc., what's, you know, the value I can bring, value team can bring, but that will take you to where you're wanting to be in terms of your aspirations or your potential, whether it be an individual or a team. And so again, you know, I actually don't sell myself necessarily. I don't sell myself anymore. It's really, it's listening, and it's connecting with what's happening in the business. And then also,
I think that is true sales. I think true sales. I was working with some salespeople over the past couple of weeks, and the mistake they were making is saying, we're going to go into a conversation with someone or a meeting with a client, and I'm going to present what I have and what I can offer. And then we talked about it. If they don't listen, well, then I'll highlight the benefits even more. But as we know, true sales is about listening. And I love that we actually learn those skills as well in coaching. But it's really about evaluating what someone needs so that you can tailor what you offer to meet those needs. So it's more listening, less talking. So key, so key.
Absolutely.
And Chantal, I love that we've also been able to collaborate. I mean, I remember, you know, we've had meetings, we've done a workshop, and I think what I love is being in collaboration. We see the different strengths and skills that we have. And as you say, we're able to pull those together to be able to add more value than we can on our own. And so I really hope that during this time, as people have moved more towards collaboration, we don't pull back in industries and close that down again, because it's through giving that we really are able to add value and feel more fulfilled ourselves.
And I think COVID has just really shone a light on, you know, how connected we are and how connected everything is. And just that, you know, with the collaboration, actually we're able to do more and on a more sustainable basis as well. So I'm definitely grateful for the relationships that I have.
Yes. Well, thanks, Chantal. I really, really do appreciate your time, and I know you're going off to a coaching session straight after this. But perhaps we can open it up to everybody. If people have comments, if you feel like, okay, I've made a transition and I can share things that have really helped me, please do so. Otherwise, if you have any questions for either of us, please go ahead and ask them. Or if you just want to say hello, please feel free to do that too. But you can unmute yourself. Please feel free to have your cameras on, and we can discuss some more if you would like to.